to our Seahawks Lions Week 4 preview because it's a massive game.
I can't wait for this matchup. You got the 3-0 Seahawks going on the road to take on the Lions. These two teams over the past couple of seasons have put on fantastic games. I think both have been in Detroit.
And Seattle won both of them.
Yeah, where in these last two meets, off defense, I should say, has been optional because the final scores have been like 38-35, something like that.
The one went to overtime. I don't remember that was 2 years. I think that was the one 2 years ago. The one last year went right down to the buzzer, I think.
Yeah, I feel like even though they're not in the same division, obviously, I feel like there's a mini rivalry developing here between these two teams because they play so close, or they played in such close games these past two seasons. And it feels like, to me anyway, this game could have massive implications on the picture of the NFC playoffs this season. So I do feel like there's a bit of a rivalry developing between the Seahawks and the Lions. I might be in the minority on that one, but that's just how I see it.
I'll say this specifically for Seattle because I just talked about how they haven't played anybody. I think this will be a big up in class for a young team with now the youngest head coach in the NFL and Mike McDonald. But if Geno Smith and the Seahawks pull out this victory, Josh, they will have the fast track, in my opinion, to the number one seed in the NFC.
Oh,
I
wow.
I think this is the game because the Rams are in a very tricky spot this week. They're going to Chicago, a desperate Bears team, still down a bunch of receivers, still down a bunch of linemen off an emotional high, west to east coast. You generally get a pullback. That's a little bit of a trap game, in my opinion, for the Rams. Now, San Francisco has New England, but I'm going to say this up front. Brock Purdy is day to day. Javon Hargrave is out for the rest of the season. No Debo, no Kittle. You got Ayuk and Purdy who are not on the same page. Jennings is good, but I'm telling you, I don't think New England's going to win the game, but there is a world where that New England game is either a 50-point blowout or it's a lot closer than people think. So
I could see a scenario where if Brock Purdy's banged up and San Francisco's without a majority of their weapons, I could see a scenario where New England just runs the heck out of the football.
that's what I'm saying. There's a world out there where New England could steal a victory here.
Exactly.
So if that happens, then this game becomes even massiver for Seattle. Arizona, they have Washington. That's a little bit of a sticky game. It's in Arizona. That's a go either way game. But I'm just looking at if the Rams lose and the Niners lose, and Seattle beats Detroit, Seahawks are have momentum galore. There should be
Yeah.
they would have three games essentially up on the Rams and the Niners in the division, which unless you're the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles, it's very hard to give up. So I think a lot of it depends on the outcome of the other games. And for the Lions, I just told you, if Minnesota beats Green Bay and the Lions lose to Seattle and they're 2 games back, then I think Minnesota is also right there with Seattle for being a top seed in the NFC at 4-0, obviously.
Think about the implications of this game. Not just what you highlighted, but I believe you and I both had not just Detroit as we both had Detroit as the 1 seed in the NFC, I believe. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to go back, but you and I both had the Lions in the Super Bowl. If
We
I'm
did.
not
I
mistaken.
had them winning the Super Bowl over the Swifties.
I had them losing to Baltimore. So this game has even bigger implications because of that factor alone. The fact that we both have them as the 1 seed.
Well, I don't know. You don't necessarily. I mean, it does help. It will help for Goff to get the 1 seed. I agree with you. But right now, the NFC just seems wide open.
Yeah.
And their division. I told you this year I wasn't in love with Seattle. I thought it would take some time for Mike McDonald to get acclimated. You know what? This is the prove it game. If they go out there and they win by a point, they don't have to make it pretty. They can win 13-12. I don't care. Just win. And you will have cemented yourself as a top, I would say, top four team in the NFC.
We've seen when Seattle has home field advantage in the NFC playoffs, it is so difficult to go into Lumen Field and get a win. The 12th man shows up and they show out.
Yeah, and I didn't think Seattle was a bad team. I just kind of thought you're going up against Kyler Murray, Brock Purdy, and Stafford in your division. You like Seattle more than I did, and I like their weapons. I just thought their division was way too hard. But clearly, San Francisco has regressed. The Rams have an injury bug galore, and Arizona, we both kind of thought we're a step away. So if Geno Smith can guide the ship, and now that we've seen Shane Waldron, who turns out is a bad offensive coordinator, now that he's no longer in Seattle, maybe you were onto something with Seattle. I'm not here to give you your flowers yet. Again, I got to wait to see, but maybe you were onto something.
I think this game will have major implications for not just their respective divisions, but the NFC as a whole. I can't wait for this game.
All right, with that in mind, Josh, our top games for week 4 of the 2024 NFL season. Here we go, our last NFL topic for the day before we get to the big game in college football, Georgia, Alabama. For me, my top 5 games, I'm going to go from 5 to 1. Now, number 5 was very tricky. I could put a lot of games here at the number 5 spot, but I put in one that's a little bit different that I don't think a lot of people are going to have on their bingo cards. And I put this game on. I'll explain why. The game is the 1 o'clock game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Chicago Bears. And the reason I put this game on is because, in my opinion, Chicago needs to win this game. You know how high I was on the Bears coming into the year. It has not looked great. They're 1-2. They should be 0-3. They barely beat Tennessee. They looked awful against Houston. They looked awful against Indianapolis. Caleb Williams throwing the ball 52 times. They're running speed options where 4 offensive linemen are on the ground. The hell are we doing, Chicago? If they lose this game, Matt Eberflus better start filling out unemployment papers. Because we talked about it. I told you at the start of the year, I was high on the Bears. My one concern was the coach. And that concern at this point has been validated. Eberflus, Hard Knocks, and HBO, credit to their crew. You sold me on Matt Eberflus. And as somebody tweeted out today, you sold me on Matt Eberflus, and we completely forgot he's an idiot when it comes to the offensive side of the ball. The Bears have no offensive identity. Expectations are high, and they need to win this game. And the Rams cannot afford to go to 1-3 in that division. We just talked about it with all those weapons. I think it's a sneaky good game in the 1 o'clock window. Number 4, I put this game down at 4. It would have been higher on my list if it wasn't for the injuries. Eagles, Bucks. I just told you I'm very concerned about the injuries on my offense side of the ball. Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Mekhi Becton, Wayne Johnson all may not play. And my birthday is Sunday, and I'm very fearful that on that day, September 29th, my Eagles, like they did on September 29, 2013, against the Peyton Manning Denver Broncos, are going to get annihilated 49-7. I don't feel good about this game. I think Tampa's angry. I think Philly is all beat up. And I think, my Eagles are going to try to play well. We could win, but if we're going to win, it's going to be ugly. And if we fall behind early, it could get ugly. I think there's a lot riding on my defense this week until my offense gets healthy again. Third game on the West. We just talked about this game. Another game in the 1 o'clock window. Vikings, Packers, for potentially the lead in the NFC North. Who would have thought Minnesota 3-0, Green Bay 2-0 without Jordan Love? We don't know if he's going to play or not, but I'm telling you this. If he does not play, Brian Flores will be ready to defend Malik Willis, Josh Jacobs, and that running attack. The number 2 game on my list is the game we just talked about, so I won't go over it more. Seahawks, Lions, Monday night. And the number one game on my list, Sunday Night Football. The MVP of the week currently, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, a rematch of the AFC divisional round in 2020. That was in 2021. Buffalo won that game 13-3. Lamar Jackson, the Ravens cannot afford to go to 1-3, especially if Pittsburgh's going to go to 4-0 if they beat Indianapolis. Who knows what the Browns are going to do against Vegas, what Cincinnati's going to do against Carolina. There's more pressure on Baltimore here than Buffalo, and can Zach Orr, the new Ravens defensive coordinator, have answers for number 17 in Buffalo? That's my top 5 games.
Okay, I like it. Let me first give you an honorable mention of a game that just missed my list. In the 4 o'clock window out in the desert, Commanders Cardinals.
That
Because
game
you
just
got the
missed my list as
Commanders who
well.
are you got the Commanders at 2-1. You got the Cardinals at 1-2. I think we both kind of said, well, we said the Cardinals could be a very feisty team in the NFC. I wasn't as high on the Commanders as you were. Um, I thought this might be a year of development for Jaden Daniels, but here they are, 2-1, leading the division. Let's see if they can take it into Arizona. So that's my honorable mention. Number 5, I'm going to a game that you did not have on your list. I'm going to the heart of America, or I think it's called the heart of America, Indianapolis, Indiana. Pittsburgh at Indianapolis. You got Pittsburgh coming in at 3-0. You got Indianapolis coming in, I believe, at 1-2, if I'm not mistaken, or 2-1. I'd have to double check their record, but either way, we talked about it.
Indianapolis is 1-2.
Okay, Indianapolis is 1-2. Thank you for double checking me on that. But Anthony Richardson, you mentioned it earlier. He has been one of the most frustrating quarterbacks in the league, but you see the potential there. They have some good pieces there offensively, with Jonathan Taylor, Adonai Mitchell, Michael Pittman Jr. They have the pieces there. It's just, can Shane Steichen get those pieces to fit correctly? And then on the other side, we have Pittsburgh, 3-0. One of my bigger surprises. Not so much for you, which I do understand your perspective on that. But I think this is a very intriguing game. I really do. Number 4, I'm surprised this game wasn't on your list. In LA, the 3-0 Kansas City Chiefs, the two-time back-to-back Super Bowl champs, taking on the LA Chargers. How are the Chiefs going to handle this new Jim Harbaugh style offense? I get it. Justin Herbert's probably not going to be at 100%, which could give the Chiefs a very big advantage. But you know that either way, Jim Harbaugh is going to want to come into this game and just run the absolute heck out of the football, keep Mahomes on the sideline, not allow that Chiefs offense to get like any time on the field. So how the Chiefs adjust to that, I think, is a best named part of this matchup. All right, number 3 on my list, Eagles, Buccaneers. You got the Eagles coming off of a big win against the New Orleans Saints, but you mentioned all their injuries. You got Tampa Bay, kind of like what you were saying about the Raiders going into their game against the Browns. The Buccaneers are going to be coming into this game with their hair on fire because they feel like they let one slip away against Denver. They're playing at home. My guess is this is going to be the game with Tom Brady on
Yes,
commentary.
it's already been announced.
Okay, so I think that's going to inspire the Buccaneers even more, knowing that the quarterback that led them to their most recent Super Bowl is going to be in their building. So I think that game is definitely in there. Number 2, I got to go with Bills Ravens. You talked about it. I would agree with you. The current MVP of the league in Josh Allen going against Lamar Jackson. These two guys have played on Sunday Night Football a couple times. I forget who has the edge right now. think it might be Lamar, but I'd have to double check. But again, you got Buffalo 3-0, but now they're stepping up in weight class, going to Baltimore because I feel like we haven't really seen Buffalo get tested too much yet. But now you're really going to get tested. Going to Baltimore, facing that offense, Derrick Henry coming right down your throat. How does Buffalo's defense handle that? And then at number one, it's the game we just talked about on Monday Night Football. Seattle Seahawks heading to the Motor City to take on the Detroit Lions. Like I said while we were just talking about, I think this game has massive implications for the picture of the NFC playoffs, and I can't wait for this game. You're
Okay.
pro- you're probably a little surprised I don't have Vikings Packers on there. That would be my other honorable mention. I just think that um, Steelers Colts and Chiefs Chiefs Chargers just has some interesting elements to it that catch my attention just a little more.
Can I explain why I don't have Chiefs Chargers on the list?
Go ahead.
I don't think Justin Herbert's going to play.
Okay. And you know what? That's a fair argument. I
I so here's what I look at, and I don't know if you realize this or not. The Chargers have a bye next week, and that's a factor for me because of the fact I don't think he should have played against Pittsburgh. I'll be honest with you. I think they should have sat him against Pittsburgh. You let him get more rest. He comes back this week against Kansas City, and then you get that bye. That's what I would have done. Because they played Herbert, because of the fact that he left the game, Steve Spagnuolo is going to know they're going to want to run the football. They're going to send a lot of blitzes Justin Herbert's way, and they don't have the best weapons on the outside. And Joe Alt, they're pretty much all pro right tackle already from Notre Dame. He's hurt. He doesn't look like he's going to play in this game. Derwin James got suspended for this game for basically too many violent hits. So with all of those factors, even if Herbert does play, he's not going to be 100%. There's a reason why this line started at Chiefs minus 1.5. It's ballooned all the way to Chiefs minus 7. So Vegas is telling you Herbert's not going to play.
And I hear everything you're saying, but even I still think even if Herbert doesn't play, Hardball's going to want to run the heck out of the football. And seeing how that schematic chess match goes between him and Spagnola is just going to be, it's just one of the fascinating aspects. That's why I put it on my list. But I do hear your argument.